I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the Local Agency Formation Commission, County of Kern, State of California, the March 22nd, 2017 meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Fowler, Commissioner McKibben, here. Commissioner Sanders, here. Commissioner Rivera, here. Commissioner Scribner,
Here.
Commissioner Mello,
Here.
Commissioner McGuire, Commissioner Couch, Commissioner Gorola.
Present.
Thank you very much. And we'll now have our Pledge of Allegiance. So I'd like to ask Commissioner Rivera to lead us. Please stand. Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes of the January 25th, 2017 meeting. Would ask if the board members have any changes to those. Otherwise, I'd request a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Motion passed, all ayes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And now we have item number 4 on our agenda, which is public comments. Do we have any members of the public that would like to make a comment on any items that are not on our agenda but under the purview of LAFCo? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to commission items. Any commissioners have any items they'd like to bring forward? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to item number 6 on our agenda, which is general business. Item A is approval of claims list number 17-02. Request a motion or any comment?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Couch,
Second.
a second from Commissioner Sanders. Please cast your votes.
Motion passed, all ayes.
Thank you. And now item B, audit report, LAFCo 2015-2016 budget cycle. Mr. Knox, I know you have provided us with a memo from staff noting that this audit shows no significant or unusual transactions or accounting policies for LAFCo, makes no significant recommendations or suggestions for the commissioner staff. Do you have any additional comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this audit is for the 2015-2016 budget year. Of course, that was the year before I got here. The good news is that we did get a clean bill of health. That's really comforting to me to know that I'm coming into a situation where the books and finances are in good shape. The bad news is I now have to keep that up over the next several years. So,
all right, the bar is set.
The bar is set high, and I'm going to have to stay with it. There's really nowhere for me to go but down from here.
Just maintain.
Yes. The only minor suggestion that they had was that we make deposits more frequently of checks that come into our office. What we've done to do that is, in the past, we have deposited those checks within the county, and then it gets transferred back to us later. We're just depositing those directly into the checking account at the bank now, which happens to be right across the street, so it's very easy to do, and a lot less paperwork to get it done.
Okay.
Still accounted for in all the books. So everything's in good shape. So my recommendation here is to receive and file the audit report.
Okay, thank you very much. Do any members of the commission have any comments on the audit report? Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion for, is this a receive and file? Yes, receive and file the audit.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Motion passed, all ayes.
Okay, thank you. Item C, modification of senior analyst job description and compensation. And I'll ask for a report from staff, but I will give a report from the Personnel Committee, which met, I guess, a few weeks ago to review this item. And the Personnel Committee's recommendation is to approve staff's recommendation on this. And so, Mr. Knox, would you like to give a little bit of explanation on this and field any questions from the commission?
Sure. In the 2015-2016 budget, this commission approved the hiring of a senior analyst position. During that time, they went through the process to advertise the position, do interviews, and try to hire someone. During that time, there was a change in where management was going with LAFCo, and I think the decision was made to not hire someone until really I was brought on to analyze what needs I would have here, where we have strengths, where we have weaknesses, and try to fill somebody in that position that can meet those needs. During that time, it became pretty clear that the applicants they got were not of the quality that LAFCo was really looking for, and one of the factors in that was the pay range was considered low by some of the candidates that we talked to, including one that said, I have another job, I like what LAFCO does, but I can get paid more elsewhere. What I have done is looked at local positions that are of similar nature to this, including county planning 2 positions, city of Bakersfield positions. Also have looked at Los Angeles LAFCO. They're in the process of hiring a deputy executive officer. The reason I added that was this position kind of is somewhat going to be trained to do part of my job in case for some reason I'm not available. The operations of LAFCO can continue. We want to make sure that happens. With such a small office, we kind of have to have that cross-training to make sure everything's going well. The salary range I put to increase to 65 to 80,000 is in line with the county and city positions. It's quite a bit lower than the deputy executive officer of City of Los Angeles LAFCO. If you approve this, I hope to start advertising this right away. We'd have all of April to get this advertised, start doing interviews, and hopefully hire somebody by May 1st. That gives us a month within this budget year. We have purposely not used a lot of Ms. Moore's time, so we would have budget to hire somebody. And by hiring them in May, that gives us time to use the expertise of Ms. Moore and myself to train that person before her contract expires. So that was one of the considerations of moving forward with this right now. I do want to point you to a memo that is sitting on your desk. This morning we received an email from the city of Bakersfield with concerns about the hiring of this position and the salary range for this. I have written a response and have given that to you, so it is on your desk. I can answer questions about that if you like. Other than that, the recommendation is approved a change in salary requirements and the job description.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Knox. I'm going to ask if there are any members of the audience who would like to make comment on this. Okay, seeing none, I'll return to the commission. Any commissioners have comments or questions? Commissioner Rivera.
Thank you, sir. So quick question, Blair. This is, I'm reading over the memo you sent back to city staff. And you make you added that you have found savings by reducing the amount budgeted for outside studies and projects. Have we already done that, or is that something that will simultaneously occur once we hire someone in May?
That was already done in last year's budget.
Okay. What was?
That was already reduced.
What was the scope? I mean, what's the scope of outside studies and projects we get help with, generally speaking?
I believe the budget 2 years previous was something like 80,000, and we dropped it by about $10,000.
Okay.
So it's about 70 now, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it dropped by about 15,000.
And what do we what types of services or contracted help do we utilize then for the 65,000?
Sure.
That line item
is professional and specialized services, which covers attorney's fees, and it covers any extra professional services that we might need, like to review environmental documents, or to help. At one time, we were looking at maybe funding municipal services reviews or getting help with sphere reviews. And so what happens to that budget number is what we don't use each year, it gets refunded to each agency in essence because they get billed out for less. So we've never used the entire amount. We've budgeted the entire amount with the anticipation of needing to do some special studies or needing help with sphere reviews or municipal services reviews. And not doing those, like I said, they've been, the agencies have gotten that money back because they've been billed out for less. But we will now need to budget, or in this last budget, we budgeted less under that line item because the analyst should be able to do some of those things that we would have otherwise needed help to complete.
Okay.
Okay.
So that is an adjustment then we're making?
It was
And
made in the previous budget because we had already budgeted for the analyst position at a lower pay rate.
Do you figure we might be able to make further adjustments in the 17-18 budget once we do hire someone?
The 17-18 budget's already going to be adjusted a little in the salary range because the new executive officer is not a classic member, so PERS is going to be lower and salary is lower. And so there is going to be that adjustment. I don't know, because Blair's working on the budget, I don't know that we'll be able to reduce the professional and specialized services even lower. I believe what we changed last year was about, I think we took about $15,000 to $20,000 out of that budget item. I honestly can't tell you whether or not we'd be able to reduce it further. There's that chance. And I think part of this memo also shows what the actual cost of this increase is. It's not, of course, the
Sure.
entire budgeted amount.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rivera. Are there any other questions or comments from staff? From the commission? Commissioner Couch?
Thank you. How much of the entire LAFCo budget does the city of Bakersfield have to pay for? What percentage of that?
So-
It's large.
It's about 20,
30?
it's about 20%. So LAFCO budget is a third the county, a third cities, and a third special districts. Of the cities' third, they pay 69%
Okay, they pay 69%
of a
of
third,
a third, So- which works out to be around 20%
about
of the
20%,
total.
yes.
So did every city then, maybe not, experience at least an increase? Everybody experienced an increase.
Yes,
They experienced a bigger increase than others because they have a higher percentage, or did everybody get the same percentage?
the percentages didn't change. So if you add 25,000, that 69% of that 25,000 would be City of Bakersfield.
Remind me, Ms. Moore's
doesn't
contract
quite
was
work.
was budgeted for in this fiscal year, but it won't be in the next fiscal year?
Correct.
So will that offset, to some degree, the amount of this?
What's happened is you are instead of funding an executive officer and a senior analyst right now, you are funding a executive officer and her part-time.
Right.
So that salary for that position, we will no longer have her part-time on.
So what's the incremental difference? It's not really, the city of Bakersfield is not, I mean, maybe they're looking at the potential of $100,000, whatever that is, $13,000 increase in our budget, but it isn't going to be that much, right?
No.
How much will it be, roughly?
Well, it's
The
it's
difference between
25,000.
113 at the top end and what she's currently making. What's that difference?
That's a good question. I'm not sure I can answer that.
I'm trying to come to, what can they expect to experience from that action next year?
Well, to answer your question, the base salary at the top of the schedule I'm giving you will be approximately $50,000 less than what you were paying the former executive officer.
So all things being equal, we're going to see a decrease in the LAFCo budget in the next
Well,
fiscal year?
you're paying me.
Okay, so we're gonna see what can we do about that? So we're gonna see an increase, I've forgotten what our budget is exactly. We're gonna see about a $60,000 increase in the next fiscal year's budget. I'm doing some math in my head. Is that
Actually,
about
the
right?
number I have is 25,000
25,000,
additional.
okay. I do think
If you count the additional, the analyst position was already funded at a lower rate. You add the additional rate plus the additional retirement benefits that go with it,
Right.
it ends up being about 25,000. Now, from that 25,000, you can now say potentially there's 10,000 less for me because I'm not a classic member. I can't even remember the term for it. I'm a PEPRA member.
Okay,
I'm going to ask in the next budget that we fund 3 full-time positions and a GIS person part-time like we are now, and also fund a part-time receptionist, but not fill the receptionist position. That could save another $20,000
so
by not doing that.
we can.
So
we
we're
can-
getting pretty close to getting back to neutral
We
on
can,
this.
we can move on your recommendation, and we can deal with those issues at budget time and address I'd like us to address the issues that were brought up by the city of Bakersfield, but we should do that at budget adoption, or budget development, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Commissioner Rivera?
I really don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I think you're making your argument stronger, so I'm trying to get it out of here. You started with 25,000, we're then realizing savings from your salary. And we will then also realize savings when Ms. Moore is no longer being contracted with. Or is it simply realizing savings from your salary? So it's actually less than 25. Am I understanding that correctly? That's what I thought I heard.
I think I understand you, and I think
Okay.
you're correct.
Okay. Well, okay. So I think that seems like a far more digestible number than perhaps what I think my staff was thinking when they wrote the letter.
Yeah, if I may, I mean, the way I view this, Mr. Knox, he indicated, basically, we're getting closer to neutral once Rebecca, and she's been wonderful to stay on during this transition. When she's no longer here, you're going to see some cost savings there. But the thing, so we're going to get pretty close back to where we are as far as how much we're spending on staff time. But I think the thing that we need to make sure we don't lose sight of is the fact that we are going to have some cross-training of staff. We will be putting in place a possible succession option if something happens unforeseen. I mean, we weren't expecting Rebecca to leave us when she did, and now we're in a situation where we're trying to catch up as far as our new executive officer's knowledge of LAFCo and how it works, et cetera. And there are more responsibilities that are being put on this commission from the state. And so in light of all that, I think that this analyst position is certainly justified. That's why we agreed to it in last year's budget. But we didn't get the applicants that we were hoping for. We're going to have to tick the salary up a little bit to be able to attract people, recruit some folks that maybe have the skill set that we're looking for. But that is why we're doing this. And I understand the city's concern. The county, Commissioner Couch and I, are definitely concerned about the county's budget. We're in as bad a shape, if not worse, than anyone of the member cities or special districts because of what's happened with oil. And I still believe that this is a priority that we need to address, and so I support staff's recommendation. So, yeah, Commissioner Couch.
I agree with that. Is the percentage that the budget is divvied up amongst all the member agencies, is that set by statute? It is.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Rivera?
I was just going to make a motion.
Okay, please do.
I'll make a motion to adopt staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, please cast your votes.
Motion passed, all ayes.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on now to item D, contract with Alpha Elite Cleaning Service. Mr. Knox.
Mr. Chairman, we've been in the same office for almost 20 years. The staff has done a wonderful job of keeping and maintaining that office, but there have been no real upgrades to the office during those 20 years. It is showing some wear and tear. It needs some cleaning and needs some work. For the time being, I would like to have a cleaning service come in and do a deep cleaning first. We have stains in our carpets and it's not in great shape. And then on a biweekly business service, they would come in and clean, just do light cleaning throughout the year. I think this is a reasonable request that we have an office that is clean and healthy and a good place for our employees to work. Long term, I know now is not the time to ask for budgets for, upgrades to our office, major upgrades. So I'm not doing that now, but I would like that in the future, but not now. So I'm bringing this contract forward to you now, just to make sure we're doing the cleaning and basics, and come back to you at a later time when things are better and maybe do some upgrades.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Knox. Any comments from members of the public?
Move approval. Oh, sorry.
Or return to the commission? Commissioner Couch.
I'll move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Please cast your votes. Okay.
Motion passed all ayes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. State legislative update, item E.
This ends up being in my old world of the legislative. Having worked in Sacramento for several years, this is something I'm very familiar with. Our LAFCo works with LAFCo, which is a trade organization that represents all the LAFCos throughout the state of California, on looking at bills that cross the legislative desk in Sacramento. Many of the bills that are LAFCO related are spot bills at this point, meaning they're kind of skeletons. They have a little bit of language into them, but they're not the real final language that you're going to see at the end. There are also bills that are specific to other LAFCOs, and I won't be covering those. There's four that I want to highlight. AB 464. There's a problem when a special district is trying to annex into areas where there are already services provided. Apparently there was a problem with how the law was written, and they're writing cleanup language for that. So that's being taken care of. That's something that's sponsored by LAFCo. AB 577 redefines disadvantaged unincorporated communities to be less than 80% of the statewide annual per capita income versus 80% of the statewide median income. And I had to look up the difference between the two. What it comes down to is more ducks will be created under this one than the previous, because there's more communities that are under the per capita than post. So that also leads me a little bit into the discussion of this commission has never really created a definition of the disadvantaged unincorporated community. That's something I would like to bring forward in the policy committee, which would like to schedule in the next couple of weeks. I have several items for the policy committee, and I'll be giving those to you soon. SB 80, use of email for secret notices instead of per mail. One of the things I really enjoyed about coming to LAFCo is that our processes are well-defined and they work. They're also very paper-driven. We mail a lot of things out, get things back in mail. It takes time, it takes money to do that, where we could be a lot more efficient by going through email, Dropbox, getting those kind of things done electronically, rather than through the slow mail. Wouldn't bother me if we put the Postal Service out of business, but that's a whole nother issue. So anyway, going to be working on making our processes more electronic friendly going forward. And I also want to bring that to the policy committee at a future date. SB 435 has to do with Williamson Act and reducing the amount per acre paid to local agencies. Kern County happens to be one of the few counties left, I think, that still recognizes the Williamson Act. I bring this forward not because it means so much to LAFCo, but it probably means more to the supervisors on how this is going to affect our Williamson Act lands going forward. So that's something to point to. Not legislation, but another piece of information coming out of the Little Hoover Commission. At a recent meeting, there was a recommendation to sunset special districts or create new elections to decide whether a special district should stay in existence every 10 years. On the surface, that somehow sounds good, but I don't know how you would ever get funding for any projects with only a 10-year lifespan. And it obviously asks the question of, so if it gets voted down, who's now responsible for the infrastructure, the facilities, the property, and all of that? LAFCo is strongly involved with lobbying this. They've actually sent out an email asking for executive officers to get involved. I would love to, but I don't really feel like I have the time right now, because I happen to know about half the commissioners on the Little Hoover Commission. So I think it would be great at some time in the future. I was available to do that kind of work, but now is not the time. I'm not prepared yet. So we are going to work on that to make sure that that doesn't go forward as far as, a 10-year lifespan on special districts. It won't work. So this is an informational item just for you. One of the things I want to bring to the policy committee is having a commission policy that the executive officer can use to work on legislative, especially in the last days of the session, because we don't meet often enough as a commission for you to take a position on a bill, go up, have it lobbied, or sent to LAFCo, any of that, and be effective. I know the county has a legislative policy that they use that staff is able to move quickly on with, and other jurisdictions have the same. I would like to explore Kern LAFCo doing the same. So I will be bringing that to the policy committee as well. So that's the end of my report on legislation.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions on that report? Okay, any members of the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on then to item F, update on Greater Bakersfield separation of grade application.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. In 2013, an application was filed with Kern LAFCo by the Greater Separation of Grade. Actually, there's two separate applications. There have been various reasons, but there have been delays that have pushed those beyond a year. This commission has approved those delays, knowing that it's not staff that's slowing things down. They got to get their ducks in a row, and it's going to take some time for them to do that. I shouldn't use ducks in a row when we talk about disadvantaged unincorporated communities. And anyway, we recently, I digress. Let me get back on track here. We recently met with the engineer and attorney for Greater Bakersfield separation of grade. They're now ready to start moving forward again. One of the issues is there are well over 1,000, actually close to 20,000 voters and property owners within these two areas, which are going to require individual notifications. Your policy as a commission is not to waive that and to make sure each individual property owner and voter gets individual notifications. In state law, you have the option, if it's over 1,000 people, to put a notification in the paper, and that would be good enough. So it's going to cost them significantly more dollars to go this direction. And they are aware of that, and we're in the process now of going back and getting estimates from mail houses here locally to see what it's going to cost for them to do that. Once they have that, they will take those numbers to their board and make a determination whether they're going to move forward or not. So it is moving forward. I want to make sure you're aware that that hasn't just stayed silent or idle, but we are continuing to move forward. And again, this is a recommendation, just an information item for the
Okay.
commission.
Thank you. Commissioner Couch.
I want to, is the reason we have the policy that we have, does it stem back to the
Hospital district.
hospital district annexation that, okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. How about members of the public? Okay, seeing none. We'll then move on to item G, update on sphere of influence questionnaires.
According to state law, every 5 years, cities, special districts all have to do a review of their spheres. In order for us to do that, the policy is to put out a sphere questionnaire to get the basic information from them to see whether, first, they're going to need any difference. For majority of special districts, they're not going to need to move their boundaries or do any additional work. So we can eliminate those and focus on those who are going to need some help on their spheres in the near future. We have put out questionnaires, and we put out questionnaires now twice. We've received back about 2/3 from the special districts that we've put out to. That's actually not too bad. We're going to go back out for a third round. We unfortunately don't have any way to compel them to get them to do with them other than just to nag them until they do, unless they actually want to do a sphere change. Then they absolutely have to. But we don't have any authority to fine them or stop their operations or any of that until. So we're doing our best we can to make sure that this process continues to move forward. We get as much compliance as we can from the special districts and meet our obligation that we are doing our best to get those sphere reviews completed in a timely manner.
Okay, very good. Any questions from the commission? Okay, members of the public? Okay, seeing none, that was also an informational item. And so, Mr. Knox, do you have anything else before we adjourn?
Yes, I have a couple of miscellaneous items. The first week in April, your LAFCo staff will be attending a Cal LAFCo workshop in Fresno for a couple of days, updating ourselves and getting educated even more on what's going on both statewide and how we can better do our jobs within Cal LAFCo. I do want to schedule a policy committee. I'm not even exactly sure who's on the policy committee at this point, but I will find out and get you dates for that and try to get that scheduled and move forward with that. For those of you who have not turned in your Form 700, I'd encourage you to do that pretty much right away. Just a reminder, also, we will be putting out, we'll be contacting those who have not, whose ethics training will expire. That's due every 2 years. I think pretty much everybody is in compliance right now, but I think a couple are due in May. So you'll be seeing, if yours are due in May, you'll be seeing something from us that you need to get those updated. And my last item, of course, is our next meeting, which will be right here on Wednesday, April 26th.
Okay. In regards to the ethics training, I believe the county has scheduled one session at the end of April, and I believe there's one in August as well. And so I think we extend that to folks from other agencies as well. And so there's something around the end of April if you're interested. I think you might be able to attend ours.
That is correct. They do have two. I don't have the dates in front of me.
Yeah, it's-
You can also take the ethics training online. It's like a 2-hour course that you can
Right.
do. So
Yeah.
sit at home, have a drink, put your feet up and get it done. So
Okay, very good. Any other questions or comments from members of the commission? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.